give you a speech about Lonesome Dove. Lonesome Dove is one of my favorite movies. It has many characters in it, and the movie lasts almost 3 hours. It has 2 parts to it. I'm going to first start out by telling you about the characters in it. Gus, Woodrow, Newt, Jack Spoon, Lori, Black Duck, Julie Johnson. There's many more, but that are the main characters that pop out to me. Gus and Woodrow are retired Texas Rangers, and they gather up some cowboys, and they are herding cattle from Texas all the way to Montana. And this is back in the day where you can't load them up in a trailer. They used horses, and they just rode them all the way there and herded the cattle there. Through all this, there was a lot of love and friendships and even death and heartbreak in this movie. Lori was with Jake at the time, but she fell in love with Gus. Gus and Woodrow were best friends throughout the whole movie. And Newt was a young cowboy. He was actually an orphan, but he ended up being Woodrow's son. And Woodrow ended up having affairs with this lady, and she passed away, so Newt didn't know his father. Well, it ended up being Woodrow's son. So throughout this movie, they're herding the cattle, and there's cowboys that die, and they run into Blue Duck, which is the Indian, and he also tries to kill them. He ends up kidnapping Lori and taking her off, but Gus ends up saving her and bringing her back. So Clara is a lady that Gus fell in love with. He was with her when he was younger, and then they ended up splitting up because he just wasn't treating her right. She ends up getting remarried, but on the way to Montana, they stop by her house, where she is remarried, and she is taking care of her husband, who got hit in the head with a horse. Hit him in the head, and it caused him to have brain damage. So she was taking care of him until he just passed away. Gus was trying to tell her that he loved her and just that he would do anything for her, but she was just through with him because of all the things that he had done to her, but he was still good friends with her. They went through there, and then throughout the movie, there was a younger boy who they end up crossing like water, then they go through dust storms and everything, and while they went through the water, this young man ended up falling off his horse, and there was a bunch of water moccasins, and they ended up killing him. And so if they have someone that passes away while they're going to Montana, they have to bury them themselves. And so they had to bury him. And at the end of the movie, the Indians and the cowboys get into like a war kind of, and get in a fight, and Gus ends up getting shot in the leg with an arrow and has to kill his horse. And so now he's walking, and he has a arrow in his leg that he cannot get out. Well, in the end, they end up finding Gus, and he ends up dying from a blood poisoning, and he asks Woodrow, will you please bury me where him and Clara, the lady that he got remarried and was taking care of her horse, or taking care of her husband who got hit by a horse, bury Gus where they used to have a picnic together. So that's what he ended up having to do at the end, and they made it to Montana, but Newt ends up dying because a horse fell on him that his father, Woodrow, gave him. So they made it there, but a lot of people had passed away, but they got their cattle there, and that was the end of the movie.